our chairman, Jason Smith, has really done a great job of focusing the members in various tax teams where we're all weighing the good, the bad, and the ugly. What has worked for the economy, what should be extended, what should be permanent, what could potentially be changed and altered for something better. And we're actually working on that right now, crafting the actual policy options that we have on the table. So we're putting in the legwork today, and I think that's going to pay off in the long run. As you know, many of the provisions have already begun to sunset, some have expired, and the remaining provisions from the Tax Cut and Jobs Act expire at the end of 2025. And this is a critical policy because it did create millions of jobs. It did lift middle-class wages. It did bring unemployment, particularly for minorities, down to lowest levels. And so we are feeling very good about our chances to get it extended. It needs to be extended. And the reality is, if it's not and it is allowed to expire, Americans will, across the board, face a tax increase. And on average, the income tax would be roughly between 3 and 5% increase that American families will see. So there's a lot at stake here. But I think the key is to once we start in January, to make this one of the priorities, not push it to the later in the year, because that is just too risky, a chance that it expires.
I covet your optimism. As a former prosecutor, I am not known for that. From time to time, there can be drama in the House. So how can Speaker Johnson, and you referenced Chairman Smith, how can they navigate all of this when there are going to be certain members that require this to be paid for as they explain it? I mean, you got different constituencies within the House and a narrow margin. How do you get all that to work together?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's definitely, it is risky, right? We have a very slim majority in the House. And last time we saw 2 reconciliations passed. It was when Newt Gingrich was in power in 1997. And also the last time Tax Cut and Jobs Act passed, there are 13 no votes. We only have about 2 votes to give away. And so that's what's challenging, and that's why it's important that we're starting now. I think what leadership has done in trying to bring the various factions together within our conference who have different views to try to see where are the sticking points. But I think right now, the big thing is to reconcile with the Senate that we're going to be taking up this bill in the beginning of the year and not doing 2 reconciliations. Because, again, I think if you focus on energy and the border up front, there's too much risk of tax expiring on the back end, because you have a lot of members who do want to focus on, I think a majority of us do, but to some degree in certain communities, certain states, energy is more important of an industry. Border states, the border is incredibly important. And then you have folks, for example, in New York and California who really care about the SALT deduction. And then you have the president's priorities, right? What you mentioned some of them before: Social Security, tax on tips, overtime. All of these things have to have parameters, and they have to be somewhat not open-ended, but some type of parameters that keep it reasonable, that it'll be acceptable to the entire conference. And so I think it is an incredibly challenging task, but I believe that we've never been more united than we are today. And I think that because we have President Trump as the leader at the helm, he'll be able to keep the membership focused and keep us united as well.
You know, incoming Majority Leader John Thune said that failure is not an option, and it just dawned on me while I was listening to you, the margin in the Senate may actually wind up being bigger than the margin in the House. I mean, it is tight, but as you said, you have a wonderful chairman in Jason Smith, and there's a reason they put the smart folks on Ways and Means. So we will look to see what y'all come up with, and we thank you for joining us on Sunday night.